There has been a lot of changes compared with last year's my comment on the reflections on how people are living their life within the COVID. As things are going down, a lot of things are changing. People are now focusing on their career because a lot of things were down. People lost jobs, so they now want to reconnect whether they can get new jobs. So now people spending most times with their families also becoming a problem, and the children are also in school, so you don't stay home doing nothing. You have to go out so that your family will get something moving. So I think there has been a wide change compared to last year's same time.
Last year, when we asked you to reflect on the government's response, you said so far so good. Is that still the same?
I said so far so good, depending on the situation we find ourselves in at that time. But this time around, I think that I can give a plus to the government, making sure that Ghana is the first country to receive the jab. And I was among the first people to receive the jab too. I'm very happy. But when it's managing the post-COVID economic situation and livelihood is a challenge now, because people have lost their job and all. So the government had a challenge in how to make sure that living becomes better for people. So the management at that time was good, but management now is a bit of a challenge. And I hope that the government will roll out something to, especially for young people, to find their footing.
The whole essence of the video is literally the video that I showed last year when everything was very fresh. We thought the pandemic would be like 6 months. So just like in the meantime, let's just figure out how to engage people. I know this is a while, this is 12 months to cast your mind back, but can you remember what you were doing in May last year?
I was in my room in res doing assignments. It was summative time in the UK for most UK students. And yeah, it was mainly panic mode for a lot of us because it was pandemic one side, assessments the other side, trying to squeeze in a social life at the same time. So the most that I can remember of it was just I had assessments to do. I had to submit everything as soon as possible.
Do you remember what you were doing May last year? So early May 2020.
So I was actually at a point where sort of working from home for a bit kind of showed me that there's a lot more that I can do with my time. And when that happens, you kind of automatically get thrusted into this mode of like thinking, okay, so this is a whole new realm of possibility. What else can I be doing, you know? And also you start questioning the position that you're in now in terms of your job and things like that, and how can this be more fulfilling? And we're going through a pandemic, and you start stressing about all these different things. And it was a time for me of introspection, but also of great expectation, because I was actually, unlike a lot of people, I was actually quite excited by the prospect of this like great reset where we just have to figure out new ways of doing things. And I saw it as an opportunity to further my career, which, just being honest. So May 2020 was sort of the beginning of me putting that plan in place, which then allowed me to further my career up to this point, sort of a year later.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Mauro that we had to find new ways of working. The January 2020 was when the Africa Engagement Program launched, and the intention was for us to travel to the African continent and meet with African alumni in the summertime. And so spring would have been the time, and May 2020 would have been the time when that would have been in that process of getting implemented. And so we had to completely change our approach. And I remember at that period was when I was working really closely with LSE Page to plan the destination LSE events, which is for offer holders. And we really were trying to find creative ways to reach out to African offer holders to encourage them to come to LSE and to support them during this transition, because nobody knew what was happening and nobody knew how their academic experience would go at LSE. And I think it was a really cool experience because I was able to connect with alumni online, and I was able to connect with incoming students online and kind of hear about what their experience was all across the continent.
This time I had just accepted the offer, I think sometimes already in, was it March or April, for LSE. I had also been obviously teaching at the University of Namibia before, and by this time last year, everything has that's moved totally online. And I was battling. I had a small baby, obviously, and I was torn between the opportunity of going to LSE comes in September, at the same time having a small baby, and I had lost a nanny and everything, and so everything was just there. And my husband obviously also by the time lost a job because of COVID. And so it was possibly the most confusing part of my life. One, I was in this trajectory of benefiting from an education from one of the world's best universities, and things at personal level were just not working out. I found courage in the fact that LSE was very supportive. I had, for instance, our program director who, I had direct access to, advising what are the best way, because at the time I felt, okay, I think maybe I should put my energy in finding a full-time job at this time, especially, and just support the family and put LSE aside. And at the same time, I'm like, I'm probably never gonna get this opportunity again. So it was very tricky.
What have the last 12 months shown you?
I'll never again in my life limit myself in terms of what I'm doing and sort of my career. So if at any point I have a job that is simply a job of, that I have at that point, and everything else around it in terms of how I use my time, how I describe myself, how I see myself, is not limited to simply I am so-and-so at so-and-so company or organization, right? So that's changed forever for me, And the second point is that as a result of that, I am always, even more than before. So if you know me, Jillian, opportunities, I'm always looking, right? But even more than before, I'm not turning down as many opportunities as I was before, because now things can be negotiated. You can change things. You can find opportunities where you didn't think opportunities existed. In doing all of that, what then I've learned about myself is I don't have to deal with anything I don't want to deal with, right? And there's a way in which, especially being African, there's a glorification of sacrifice and of struggle and so on and so forth, that we constantly feel like when we struggle to achieve something, then it's meaningful, right? But so sort of unlearning that and learning that actually what's meaningful is something that means a lot to you for whatever other reason, apart from I struggled to get this, right? And a big part of that, I think I would urge a lot of people to start thinking this way is, are they paying me what I'm worth, right? And beyond that, are they providing an environment that allows me to flourish? So it's not just about, this job title is nice, they're paying me enough. Are they treating you the way you want to be treated is a huge deal. And it's something that I think also because of my age and my lack of experience, I used to go into places and just have that happy to be here mentality, right? Where it's, you're just fine, if I don't particularly like the way I'm being treated, it's okay. I'm building my career and so on. But I think I'm getting to a stage now where I'm a lot more confident in terms of what I bring to the table and who I am, et cetera, et cetera. And that process actually was sort of expedited by the pandemic and just having to face, when you strip everything else away, are you actually happy? Because you're spending a lot of time on your own in your apartment, working from home. Are you actually happy, right? That's sort of where I am now, as opposed to where I was a year ago.
I have gone way ahead of one what I thought I could manage. Like, I didn't know that I can study and work and be at home and be and I remember in January I had my visa ready, like I think my arrival visa, what you call it, to get to London. I was really set. And then I think around the 7th of January, the university writes to say, please stay where you are. At this point, it's safer to stay where you are. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not possibly going to manage. But yeah, I didn't know that I had this much strength.
How do you feel now, and what is your outlook to the future? Now that we seem to be living with the virus, people are being vaccinated, things are opening up. What is your outlook on the future?
I just want things to somehow go back to normal. Honestly, I don't know what the word, while normal is kind of a weird word in of itself, because people use that word to explain scenarios or situations or individuals to fit into some sort of a box. But I would like things to go back to the time of being able to go to events. I miss going to concerts. I miss going to discussions, conferences, interacting with other people. I would like to go back to that kind of life, especially for me, who's in the creative industry side of things. The pandemic has really taken a knock on creatives, because creatives can't do the work that they usually do. And they need audiences, they need that interaction. Of course, they can do things virtually, but it just takes away the experience of being in the presence of a creative, whether it's a singer, dancer, a speaker, an actor. And I'm hoping that once everyone is vaccinated, we can kind of have that sort of life. But there is a but. I do think we need to, I hope the future is a bit more friendlier, kinder, and we're a little bit more alert of how we do things. Before, we'll just do things without the care in the world. Now, I hope people will realize to be mindful of people, mindful of interactions, mindful of space. I think that's the one thing the 2-meter rule has kind of taught us. Be mindful of space, be mindful of people's not barriers, boundaries, people's boundaries. So that's what I hope the outlook of hopefully towards the end of 2021 into 2020, whenever this thing comes to somewhat of an end, or it's at least manageable.